The stars flickered in the distance, far beyond the reach of any human hand. Yet, even in the deepest voids of space, humanity's curiosity burned brighter than ever. The Galactic Council had long deemed the outer reaches of the Milky Way uninhabitable, reserved for the ancient, enigmatic species that dominated the cosmos. But the humans, with their boundless ambition and tenacity, had never accepted limits. They were driven by the same instinct that had once propelled them to the top of their own world, to explore, to conquer, and to leave their mark upon the universe. The crew of the Phoenix had been traveling for months, a ship of human ingenuity, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species. Captain Arya Ward, a seasoned explorer, stood on the observation deck, her sharp eyes fixed on the deep, infinite black ahead. Her crew had become family, and their mission was clear: to reach the edge of known space and unlock the mysteries lurking beyond. But the journey had not been without its difficulties. They had encountered strange phenomena, anomalies that defied all explanation, and the unsettling silence of a galaxy that had seemingly forgotten humanity. The mission was on the brink of failure. Fuel reserves were dwindling, morale was low, and the crew was beginning to doubt the wisdom of venturing so far from the safety of the known worlds. Arya's own resolve was beginning to crack. The pressure of leading this monumental mission weighed heavily on her shoulders. She was human, after all, and even the most determined of souls had their breaking points. But then, an anomaly appeared, a flickering beacon of light, pulsing in the distance. It was a signal, a pattern too precise to be natural. The crew scrambled to investigate. A deep sense of unease settled over the ship, but Arya's instincts told her this was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. Against the advice of her officers, she ordered the ship to alter course. As the Phoenix approached the source of the signal, the crew's screens flickered with strange energy readings. What they found was beyond anything they could have imagined. A massive, ancient structure drifted in the void, colossal and seemingly abandoned. It was not of human design. Yet, it was clear that someone, or something, had built it. Arya's voice echoed through the ship's comms, her words barely audible. This is it. We've found it." The crew watched in stunned silence as the ship docked with the mysterious structure, unsure of what they would discover. Would they find answers to the countless questions that had haunted humanity for millennia, or would they uncover something far darker? The spirit of humanity burned brightly as they ventured into the unknown, and with each step, the promise of their endless potential was clearer than ever before. But in the silence of deep space, they were not alone. The crew of the Phoenix stood at the threshold of the colossal structure, the air around them thick with anticipation. The ancient walls were smooth, metallic, and unyielding, and the eerie hum that emanated from the depths of the station seemed almost alive. It was clear that this place had once been home to a civilization far older and far more advanced than humanity. Its design was alien, yet oddly familiar in its scale and grandeur. Arya took a steadying breath before leading the crew through the towering entryway. Inside, the station was quiet, too quiet. The crew's footsteps echoed, their voices barely audible in the vast, hollow corridors. Strange symbols covered the walls, patterns that were both beautiful and unsettling. Despite the advanced technology surrounding them, there was no sign of life. No energy source. No warmth. Just the cold silence of a civilization lost to time. "Captain, we're detecting residual power, faint, but it's there," Lieutenant Riley said, her voice tight with both excitement and concern. "It's coming from further in." Arya nodded, her resolve firm. "We're not turning back now. Let's see what's down there." The deeper they ventured, the more the station seemed to come alive around them. Strange lights flickered on as they approached, and the walls seemed to pulse with a rhythm that almost felt sentient. It was as if the place itself was aware of their presence. Then, they reached the heart of the station. A massive chamber, filled with shifting holographic projections and advanced technology beyond anything humanity had ever seen. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and upon it, a sphere that pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light. The air crackled with energy, and for the first time since their arrival, the crew felt the weight of something immense. "This is it," Arya whispered, her voice reverberating in the vast chamber. "This is what we came for." But as her hand reached out toward the sphere, something stirred in the shadows. A low, guttural sound echoed through the chamber, and the crew froze. The lights flickered again, and suddenly, the air grew colder. The symbols on the walls began to shift, their patterns moving like living things, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. "What the hell is that?" Riley shouted, her voice filled with fear as a massive form began to materialize in front of them. A figure, tall, hulking, and armored, emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with a terrifying light. It was a being unlike any they had ever encountered. Not human. Not alien. An ancient guardian, forged by the hands of a civilization long gone. A creature designed to protect, to defend this place from intruders. And as it took its first step toward them, the crew realized something chilling: this guardian had been waiting for them. For humanity. The massive form of the guardian loomed before them, a towering figure of advanced alien technology and unknown power. Its armor gleamed with an ethereal light, and its eyes burned with an ancient intelligence. Arya's heart pounded in her chest, but she stood firm, her crew gathered behind her. There was no turning back now. "Stay calm," Arya ordered, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "We don't know what it wants, but we need to find out." The guardian made no sound as it advanced, its footsteps heavy and deliberate. The air around it seemed to warp, distorting the light and making the very space feel alien. The crew took a cautious step back, unsure of what to do next. It wasn't attacking, not yet. It was waiting. Lieutenant Riley, ever the pragmatist, was the first to speak. "Captain, this thing looks like it's programmed for defense. If we don't figure out what it wants, we could be in a whole lot of trouble." "Agreed," Arya said, eyes scanning the room for any clue, any sign of how to communicate with this creature. "I think it's guarding something. We need to approach this carefully." As if it had been listening, the guardian stopped in its tracks and raised a hand. A series of holographic symbols appeared in the air, floating before it in intricate patterns. Arya's eyes narrowed. They were similar to the symbols they had seen throughout the station, but now they seemed to be alive, shifting and changing in real time. "That's not random," Riley muttered. "It's trying to tell us something." Arya stepped forward cautiously, her voice steady but firm. "We're not your enemies. We came here to understand, not to conquer." For a moment, nothing happened. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Then, the guardian's eyes glowed brighter, and the symbols around it shifted, forming into a new pattern. It was a message. Arya's heart raced as she watched the symbols slowly translate into something resembling human language. "Underscore, the test begins. Underscore." The ground trembled once more, and the pedestal holding the glowing sphere began to rise, revealing a hidden doorway beneath it. A holographic screen appeared, displaying an intricate maze of interconnected challenges, trials, each more dangerous than the last. "You've come to claim knowledge," the guardian's voice echoed in Arya's mind, its tone cold yet strangely understanding. "But to claim it, you must prove your worth. The trials will test your resolve, your ingenuity, and your strength. Fail, and you will become one with the void." Arya felt a surge of determination. This was their moment, the chance to prove humanity's worth, to show that they were more than just survivors, more than just explorers. They were ready for whatever lay ahead. "We'll take the trials," Arya declared, her voice unwavering. "We'll prove we're worthy." The guardian stepped aside, its imposing figure retreating into the shadows. The first trial had begun. The crew exchanged wary glances before stepping forward, ready to face whatever the station's creators had designed. Every member of the crew knew this was no longer just about exploration. It was about survival. It was about humanity's place in the universe. And they would not fail. Each challenge was more difficult than the last, testing not just the crew's intellect and strength, but their unity. The maze of obstacles unfolded in ways that were both mind-bending and physically demanding. Some challenges were purely mental, requiring them to solve complex puzzles that seemed to warp the very fabric of space and time. Others tested their endurance, pushing them through extreme physical environments, gravity wells that crushed them down, corridors that twisted into impossible angles, and environments so cold and hostile that it felt as though their very bodies might freeze in an instant. Through it all, the crew held together. Arya, determined to prove humanity's worth, led them with resolve. She trusted her crew with her life, and they reciprocated that trust in kind. Riley, with her sharp mind and unshakable logic, cracked puzzle after puzzle. Engineer Marcus, always the problem solver, adapted the ship's technology to help them navigate the more physical challenges. Dr. Elena, the team's biologist, helped them survive the harsh conditions, identifying dangers and finding solutions to overcome them. With each trial, they grew stronger together. But it wasn't the physical obstacles or the puzzles that would ultimately define them. It was the final trial. At the heart of the station, they stood before an enormous chamber, its walls lined with holographic projections. The Guardian stood in the center, its presence commanding and unyielding. The chamber was filled with a profound silence, and the crew could feel the weight of the moment. This is it, Arya said, her voice trembling slightly for the first time in months. The final trial. The sphere, still glowing faintly on its pedestal, seemed to pulse with energy. As they approached, the symbols surrounding the room shimmered and shifted into a single, final message. Only those who can rise above themselves may claim the knowledge of the ancients. The crew exchanged confused glances. This final trial was unlike the others. It wasn't about strength, or intellect, or even survival. It was about something deeper, something humanity had always excelled at, overcoming the very limitations that had once held them back. The Guardian's voice echoed once again, this time not in their minds, but in the room, booming with authority. To claim the knowledge you seek, you must surrender your greatest fear. Only then can you transcend what you are and become what you were meant to be. Arya's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the magnitude of the trial. It wasn't just about surviving the physical dangers of space or deciphering alien technology. It was about confronting the essence of what made them human, their doubts, their weaknesses, their fears. One by one, the crew stepped forward. Riley faced her fear of failure, of never living up to the legacy of the humans who had come before her. She let go of her doubt and stepped into the light, her resolve hardening. Marcus, whose fear of losing control over his creations had haunted him for years, surrendered his need for perfection, embracing the chaos of the unknown. Elena, who feared the vastness of space and the isolation it could bring, overcame her terror by accepting the infinite potential of the universe, her sense of wonder outweighing her loneliness. And finally, Arya. Her fear had always been that humanity would fail, that they would be nothing more than a fleeting blip in the cosmos, too small to matter. But she stood tall, letting go of that fear, understanding that humanity's spirit wasn't defined by the challenges they faced, but by how they faced them. As the crew united, their fears dissipating into the vastness of the chamber, the Guardian's form began to shimmer and fade. The ancient being's role had been completed. It was no longer needed. The trials had proven their worth. With a final, gentle pulse, the sphere at the center of the room exploded in a burst of light, and the chamber filled with knowledge, technology, maps of distant galaxies, and the untold history of a civilization that had long since passed. The crew of the Phoenix had succeeded, not just because they were strong or smart, but because they had proven that humanity's true strength lay in its ability to rise above fear, to unite in the face of the unknown, and to push forward with unwavering resolve. As they looked out into the stars beyond the station, they knew their journey had only just begun. The universe was vast, but humanity's spirit, burning brighter than any star, would guide them forward. And this time, they would never be alone.